Hello everyone, welcome to episode 90 of the Cherry Heart podcast. I'm Sandra and this is a crafty podcast about crochet, knitting, possibly some sewing and other bits and bobs. You can find the show notes for this podcast on my blog, which is cherryheart.co.uk. Just click the podcast tab at the top, or I will put the link down in the down bar under YouTube if you're watching on there. So hello, how are you? How have you been? We're doing quite well here. The weather is a bit grey and miserable. Our sort of sunny spell has ended, it seems, for a while. So we're all feeling a bit cold, quite frankly. But I've got some vloggy footage to put at the end of this one, and most of that was during the sort of sunny days. So yeah, if you want to hang around in that, some nice bright days to show you on the end of there that I've been collecting up. Right, so let's get into it. What have I got to show you? Done things first. So I have finished my pink slouchy cardigan. Let me get that out. Well, I say I've finished it. There's a bit of a story. Well, not a story, but just... I'm not sure I'm happy with it, is the answer, but I've got all my markers and things in still. Yes, I haven't blocked it yet. Let me pop it on and see if I can do a little show it to you. Hello. So here we are. I have it on. I'm going to have to cut my head off now to show you. Yeah, I don't know whether to talk about this now or afterwards. I quite like it, but at the same time, it didn't quite turn out the way I wanted. It's a lot longer than I wanted. I don't think I can even get the length in to show you. Oh, there we are, just about. So it's right down over my bum. I mean, it's a nice length, but I was sort of aiming for about here, I guess. So I'll come back now so we can chat. Yeah, I'm trying the new camera setup again today. Well, new setup, not new camera. Last week it worked out reasonably well, but I had a little bit of trouble with focusing issues. So yeah, so I've had a look at the settings, and I think I might have, well, let's not say solved it. I think I might have improved it, but we'll see how it goes this episode. So I don't know what any of that was like, was the reason I mentioned that. But I thought I'll give it another try for this episode, and we'll sort of see. And let me know what you think as well, because I've got a new microphone set up, and somebody last time commented that the sound was better on the last podcast. So it'd be interesting to know if that was the case. Because, what was I saying? I've completely lost the thread of my thoughts there. Yes, because the reason I'm trying this new camera setup at all is because my old microphone that I was using has just started to be a little bit temperamental, so I'm just wondering if I need to sort of consider moving to something else now. Yeah, anyway, very long-winded, but just I thought I'd try this one out again and see what you think, because I can always go back to using my phone, which is what I normally use. Anyway, so this cardigan, yeah, I quite like it. I haven't put any buttons on. I haven't even planned for any buttons. I haven't put any buttonholes in even. But I really love the fabric that I'm getting. I really like how it sort of even almost blends in at the sleeve really nicely. I like the cuff on the sleeve because it sits quite nicely, but I'm not sure how much I love it for the neck or at the end. Oh, I'm looking on the screen so I can see what I'm showing you now. Yeah. So I like the look of it, but I don't know how well it's going to sit, because this is wanting to curl like crazy. I mean, I haven't blocked it yet, but I don't know, I'm still not entirely 100% convinced on that, because this is wanting to curl round like that as well. I'm almost tempted, because it turned out longer than I wanted, I'm almost tempted to unpick and see if I can take some off the bottom. But actually, having put it on today, I don't mind the length so much, but it's this edging I'm not sure about, so I might unpick and change that edging. But yes, other than that, I'm reasonably happy with it. I was thinking maybe I keep trying to do a garment pattern, but I keep sort of coming up against myself, really, I think. And I kind of feel like I can't, I don't know, maybe I'm not capable of doing that. I don't know. Anyway, so you know, initially I was thinking, well, maybe this time it would work out, maybe this one could be a garment pattern. And possibly it still could, but I feel like there's a lot of changes I would make to this. I feel like I would need to make this again, using everything I've learnt from making this one, and then sort of see if that would be viable for a pattern, if that makes any sense. But yes, it is nice and soft and gorgeous. I used the Drops alpaca, I have said before, but alpaca silk. Oh, is that going to focus on that? Oh, it's not, is it? You're supposed to focus on this thing that I put up here. This is even worse than it was before. There we go. Yeah, that was the yarn I used, wasn't it, in the colourway powder. But it used an awful lot of balls because I held it double. So this would, again, another thing, if I wrote it up as a pattern, it would be better if I made it in like an Aran weight, I think, or worsted weight. So yeah, I don't know that there's much else to say about it, really. I did enjoy doing it, and it worked up ever so quickly, and like I say, I love the fabric. I'm just not sure about these bands. They might need a bit of rethinking, and size wise, because it's only just sort of wide enough around, and the length is longer, so it's contracted like that and grown longer, which is partly, I guess, the stitch pattern, but a lot of it is this yarn as well, and just the sheer weight of it. So when I did my swatch, which I did do quite a reasonable swatch, it's just not the same as having the weight of an entire cardigan. So I don't know quite what you do about that. Like, from a designing point of view, do I sort of intentionally block it and stretch it because I anticipate that is what will happen when it has the weight on it? But how much, you know, how much do you stretch it, sort of thinking, oh well, it'll probably stretch out this much because it'll probably get heavier, but what if it doesn't? Then that's going to throw everything off as well, isn't it? I don't know, I find it quite difficult and perplexing. I think for this particular one a different yarn would help. And obviously now I've made it, now I know how much it stretches out, I could like adjust accordingly. But I didn't know until I'd made it. So do you just have to make, you know, is that what you do? You just have to make a bit that large so you can even tell if that's going to happen? I don't know. Anyway, I'm going to keep this on now because, like I said, it's not that massively warm up here. And I'm going to move on to something else I finished, which is what? Don't know why I'm asking you. I haven't told you yet, you don't know. Oh yeah, this. This is a, well, it's not really anything. It's a something and a nothing. So recently, I mentioned on previous podcasts, if you were here before, I mentioned that I'd got some vintage crochet bits and bobs that had been handed to me, and one of them There was a couple that I was really intrigued by and some lovely doilies and things, but this was one of the other ones I got. And I've been using this. You might have seen it if you follow me on Instagram. I wonder if that's focusing on that. Guess I've just got to assume it is, haven't I? And what was I saying about this? Yes, I've been using this as a background on Instagram photos just because I like it and I think it looks quite nice. A little bit of interest. It's quite sort of, I don't know if you can tell, there's all threads and things coming off of it. It's quite sort of, give you a nice close up there. It's quite sort of tatty in places with all the bits hanging off of it. But the basic pattern is really cute, so I thought I would try and recreate it. What really interests me about sort of vintage crochet is sort of how it's made. So I don't know if you can see, if I hold this up. So this is, it's worked in the round, but it's worked as a spiral. It's not, they don't complete a round before they go on to the next row. I don't know if you can see on this, this is a round of trebles here. That's UK trebles. Can you see how it sort of, it starts, have I got this the right way around? Yeah, it starts down there and it's worked in a spiral and it actually ends higher up. And it's the same on all the rounds, so where they've made loops, you know, they don't finish and then move the yarn up and then start another round. They just carry on spiralling around. So you sort of end up with these kind of almost interrupted circles. They all seem to be like it. And also the stitch count varies. It's almost like they don't kind of worry too much about the accuracy, as long as the overall look they're getting is roughly what they want. That seems to be more of the priority. I can just really see it in the middle of that one as well, look, where it doesn't join up. Hang on, if I put my hand behind. Oh, yeah, where it doesn't join up there or there. It's just interesting. Obviously there's sort of different attitudes or different ideas behind it. You know, and the number of trebles in this round won't necessarily be the same on all of them, and the number of loops, I mean, more or less the same, but you know, obviously, well, the person who made this anyway obviously sort of went, oh, I've got an extra loop in there, oh well, never mind, I'll just fudge it, it'll be fine. And you know, I guess they're right really, you don't notice when it's on this sort of scale, do you? Anyway, that's a long-winded bit of chat about that, but I did have a go at making my own one. So this is it in a DK yarn. Obviously, so it's a heck of a lot huger than these tiny little circles on here. So I have no idea what weight they use for this. It's so intricate. Because I've made it in a crochet cotton as well, which is the thing I'm working on to show you. And even this with a crochet cotton, and I'm using a 2.5 hook, and this is still loads bigger than that other version. But you can see where I've sort of added quite a few together now. It's got more of a similar sort of feel to that other fabric. I really love it together like this. I'm not so much in love with this as a single motif, personally. It makes a cute little coaster though, I suppose. But when it's sort of joined together, so they've got these, I need some sort of, like a hanger, like a displaying, holding things up hanger, because it's hard to hold it up with one hand and show you. So it's got this motif, which I don't know if you can see with me behind it, and then there's a little sort of other joining motif that they have between them as well. So there's the big circles and a little circle. But yeah, I've just got distracted into making this, which is just a small rectangle, and then I ran out of yarn, and I could order some more, but the colourway that I've got written down for this doesn't seem to exist anymore. So this was DMC crochet cotton Petra 5 in the colour 5353. And I've looked, and there's very similar sort of colours, like a soft peachy pink, it's described as, but it's a different number. So I don't know if they've done that thing where they sort of discontinue, but then they bring it, you know, change the shade ever so slightly and bring it back, or quite what. But I figured if it's a different number and I order it, it's not going to match in with what I have already, so I may as well just leave this as this, I think, because even if I made it bigger, I don't know what I'd do with it. If I'm honest, what I'll probably do with this is use it the same way I'm using this, which is maybe just a little bit of a background in pictures to look nice. But I enjoyed the process of making it. I enjoyed the process of working out the motif, and the little motif to join them together as well, and then seeing it working out. And I don't know, it's just a pretty object without a lot of purpose. But I enjoyed it. That's the main thing, isn't it? What does it matter if it doesn't really have a use? Tell me that doesn't matter. Oh, I'm looking at the screen again. It's difficult. Right, so let's just fold this up, pop this away. And I'll move on to things I'm actually working on now. Where to begin? Let's switch over to some knitting for a minute. Let's switch over and I'll show you my socks that I have on the go. This is going to be in a bit of a tangle. I'm doing 2 at a time. So here we are. There it is. But I'm using a gradient mini set. This one I've got slightly ahead on. So the markers are just to show where I've changed colours, just in case. Because I'm trying to work out, obviously, so I've got the gradients more or less evenly spaced, but I've got to fit the heel in, which is going to take more, isn't it? So, yeah. I've just put a marker so I know where I've changed, because they blend in so beautifully. So this socks pattern that I am making, oops, is my Pearly Dot Socks, which is a pattern I made a little while ago, and I never actually got round to releasing. So I'm just making it again just to check I've got everything right, so that I can perhaps release that soon. But I really like this little, is that going to focus on that cute little peacock edge, picot edge, whatever it is. And yeah, I just really like this little pattern, little very simple little eyelet pattern. So the yarn is elderflower stitches. This was my lovely gift from gorgeous Jodie. So those are the, is that gonna, see now, why was it not changing the focus onto them? I do not understand these things, I really do not. There we are, I force you to focus on it. So those are the palest colours, and then here are, oh, hang on, I'm missing a colour. Oh, that's strange. I am literally missing a colour. Where has that gone then? Oh no, that was the palest colour. I've only got a little bit of it back left, so right, focus on those. So that's the very palest colour. That one's the middle one. That one there, I'm wiggling at the end. And then I've got the last 2 colours to come. Okay, it started flashing at me again, and I've just discovered apparently that's because it's exceeding the file limit, so it's going to start splitting it into files. So I can ignore that flashing and it will just split it into files for me. But I suppose if I do it when I want to rather than it just automatically chopping it off, maybe that's better. Sorry, this is boring, isn't it? I shouldn't be talking about it on here. Anyway, so yes, elderflower stitches, gorgeous mini set. That's her card. which may or may not be focusing. In point shoes, that's the colour. But yeah, really loving that, really enjoying those, to the point where I actually started some of these other projects just to kind of draw this out a bit so I didn't rush through it too quickly. But yeah, I'm really sort of enjoying seeing the gradient come out, and you know, you sort of go quickly because you want to get on to the next colour. So those are coming along nicely, and then I started something else, which has kind of been inspired by sort of seeing you guys doing things on Instagram. I was saying in the last podcast that I've been seeing like the Siggy Interrupted shawls coming up, which are looking so awesome. But also the Battenberg blankets, sort of since the lockdown. I think a few people have sort of pulled out old or languishing whips, and sort of a lot of Battenberg, or starting even Battenbergs. So I've been doing a little tiny bit of Battenberging. There's my tiny little bit that I've put together just last night. Haven't got very far with that. But let me show you what I'm using. So here are my squares that I've made so far. I haven't got too many yet, but getting quite a nice little pile. But I'm using these beauties. Oh, look at them, so pretty. So this is the Starcraft Naturals yarn. I have talked about it before. It came out a little while ago, and I talked about it when it came out, and I'd used it a bit at the time. Oh, but I just absolutely fallen in love with it. It's just so perfect. Well, the colours, I mean, this is just some of them. There's a lot of colours. I can't even remember how many there were now, but there's a lot of colours, and they're just beautiful. All of them are beautiful. There's some lovely pastel, sort of delicate pastel shades. There's sort of some brighter, more vivid shades, but there's loads of these just beautiful, muted, just sophisticated shades is the words that I was hovering around using. But like, I don't know how to describe it really. Like sometimes with colours, they can have a nice range of colours, and you can have pastels and brights, but there's something sort of a bit more subtle that you can do with colours, where they have sort of almost like a kind of a grey, I'm not sure if it's tint or tone is the word I want, but it just brings the sort of colour back from that very clear, crisp colour, which is also gorgeous, but just brings it down a few notches and just makes it so subtle, and they work together so well, and oh, I just really love it. So I think this is probably going to be my colour palette for this, with the ecru to join. I'll put these colours that I'm using, I'll pop that on the show notes actually, in case you want to know, because I did have a question when I did a post about this on Instagram, so I popped them up in my stories. But I'll put that little picture on my show notes so you can see the colours that I'm using, because I just love them. So yeah, these are going to be all my colourful squares. I'm going to join with the ecru, which is just a very slightly off-white. And I'm making, not a whole blanket this time though, I'm making just some chair covers for my dining room chairs. I made some, many years ago in my Rosy Posy square pattern. Again, that's on the blog, so I can link if you like. I'll pop a picture in here so you can see them. Yeah, so I'd made them and they've lasted brilliantly well, but they're just getting so worn and tatty now because they've been on there for years. I thought they deserved a replacement. So yeah, so I thought this would be the top, the sort of Battenberg, and then it'll probably just be granny square underneath. Not that you'll really see that. And you know, ties just to tie them onto the chair, so they're sort of like the chair pad cushions type thing. So yeah, so that's my plan, and that is enjoyable. I'm really enjoying working up my little squares, just like I did first time when I made my actual Battenberg. In my original I used a whole load of 4-ply minis, so there was sort of that enjoyment of unwinding them and seeing how they would work up, and although you don't get that with these because obviously they're just solid colours and I know how they're going to look, it's still a really lovely relaxing process to just sit and make something simple, and I still just really love seeing how nice it looks when they come together. So yes, very much enjoying that, very happy about that little project. And I'm just going to quickly talk about incoming goodies now because it's the same yarn, so it makes sense to put it together. So here's the label actually, so you can see. Yeah, so it's a bamboo cotton as it says on there, so it's 60% bamboo, 40% cotton. It's a DK weight yarn. The recommended hook size is 3.5. I think, what's it for knitting needles? Yeah, it's 4 for knitting, as you know, DK is about a 4mm. But the hook size is 3.5, and I find that that's exactly spot on because it's not sort of a fluffy yarn, it's a beautiful, smooth, sort of the bamboo makes it so drapey and shiny and lovely. So yeah, the 3.5 just suits it perfectly, I find. But yeah, it's just a really lovely yarn. So yeah, so I got some more colours to try. These were very kindly sent to me from lovely Starcraft. Thank you, Starcraft. So I thought maybe these peaches I might add to my Battenberg collection. Maybe. I'll have to see. You can't see anything there. I was going to offer it up and see what we thought, but can't see anything there. So that's just a replacement of one of the colours that I've currently got in there. That's Seafoam, and it's not focusing. Focus. There we are. And then I've just ordered some others that I thought might either work in there or that I've got another idea for. Let me just see if I can hold those up together. There they are. So gorgeous. These peaches though, just both of them. Oh, in fact, just the peaches with the white. Look at that. How gorgeous is that for a palette? Lovely. That's peach, the ever so slightly darker. But this is what I mean, it's just that little notch away from sort of really bright. It's just ever so slightly down a notch from that. Some of the sort of, like when the colours come through, they can almost be too crisp, but these are perfect. And I haven't got the ball band for that, so I'm not sure what the colour name is. I suspect it might be called Apricot. I'll pop it down here, then you'll know. But yeah, so looking forward to playing with these as well. But thank you ever so much to Sarkov for giving me those, because I just can't get enough of this gorgeous yarn. Buttermilk, look at that lovely yellow. Ooh. I think there's a pigeon on the roof, if you can hear that. Possibly 2 pigeons on the roof. Yeah, so that's just bumped up incoming goodies. So the last thing to talk about is PIPs, which is patterns in progress. So I mentioned finishing off my Pearly Dot Socks, so hopefully I can get them out soon. But I have released now my Sunbeam squares, which is what is it? I'll have to put a picture in. I made recently, a few weeks ago, a little kind of window curtain, a little window dressing to just sit at the top of my window. I had a little wooden sort of slatted Venetian blind style thing up there, which was getting very rickety and tatty, and we never draw it either. It's literally just sort of sits at the top there, and gathers dust essentially that I have to deal with. So I thought, well, all I need is, rather than just having a stark window, all I need is just a little decorative bit that would hang at the top there, just something that looked nice. And these little crochet squares would look fab up there. So again, this was a square that I'd based on a vintage shawl. Again, I got from my nan, like this other thing that I was talking about earlier. But it was, oh, actually I've got it here. So this was what it was based on, and I've spoken before about how it's it's clearly crochet, but if you can see that it's that's not a regular crochet stitch, it's just yarn that's looped up, so it's obviously made in some kind of other method, not quite sure how, some sort of loom or hairpin or broomstick crochet type thing. But anyway, I really like the motif, so I made it with just regular stitches in a regular way that I could manage. And yeah, when I started joining them together, I just really liked it. So I made the window dressing using that. And then I got some questions about, like, would I be bringing it out as a pattern? So I have done that. I've written it up as a pattern. It is a paid for pattern because I've gone into how I've joined it and given you like a layout, so you could have the, you know, the points on the bottom, and I've added in the pattern for the half square, so you could arrange that layout. And I've also done the charts for it as well. So the PDF is up on Ravelry and Love Crafts. Oh, and it's also in UK and US terms. I pretty much always do a choice of the two when I'm releasing patterns now. I can't say all the patterns I've got out I've done that, and certainly sort of for free ones I don't always do that. But with new patterns that I'm bringing out, I try to always do UK and US terms now, and try if I can to include charts. It's not always possible because I make my own charts, which is not always easy. I quite enjoy it in a way. I quite enjoy the challenge, and I've definitely got a lot better, so I can go a bit further with my charts each time. But yeah, sometimes it's just a step beyond what I can manage. Yes, but anyway, I've done it for this pattern, and it's quite hard to the only thing I would say, it's quite hard to advise how much yarn you're going to need, because obviously it depends entirely on how big your window is, which I don't know. So I've given a guide of like how many balls, how many motifs you can get out of the yarn that I used. So I used the naturals again on mine, so that was DK yarn in the naturals. So I've put that in the pattern and sort of given you some guidance on how many motifs that'll make. So hopefully you'll be able to work out what you need for your window if you're going to do that. Or you could just use it as a blanket. I really am kind of hankering to make a blanket's worth of them as well. Or a tablecloth, I thought would be nice. But again, I just made a tablecloth using the vintage doilies that Nan gave me. So, how many fully crochet laced doilies does one need? Don't answer that, because you might say something that, you might say, oh yeah, you can have loads of them, that's fine. But yeah, I thought I'd limit myself on that. But I do still really want to make a blanket in it. Maybe I will, who knows. Yeah, so that's out now, available to buy. The links are in show notes. I'll pop it down here so you can search it, obviously. But you can just pop over to the blog if you want to. Just trying to think if there's anything else I've got to tell you. Let me refer to my notes, which is today on the back of my shopping list. Totes Professional. So Slouchy Cardigans, Dinky Doilies. Oh, these, by the way, I've called... Here we are, patterns in progress. Working out this motif, I'm calling them Dinky Doilies because they kind of look like a little tiny doily, the little motif. And I'm writing up the pattern for that. That will be a free one. And I will be popping it up on the blog at some point quite soon, hopefully, probably next week. Yeah, if you keep an eye on Instagram, you know, I'll put it there. So on the blog or on Instagram, and that will come out for free. My Sunbeam squares I just spoke about, and we've done the goodies, which is the naturals yarn. So I think I'm good. I think that's it from me. So stay tuned if you would like to see my vloggy footage of us doing some things in the nice warm weather. And that's probably it from me, I think. I hope you're looking after yourselves, or continuing to look after yourselves, and finding lots of crafty time. And I'll see you next time. Bye! Oh, that's really cool. Oh my god. I hate you guys.
Who did this?
I asked you.